A vague disclaimer is no one's friend. This podcast will look at episodes in relation to Buffy and Angel as a whole, and therefore contains spoilers for the entirety of both series. If you haven't seen all of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel the series, go and watch them before you listen to this. Remember, you've been warned.
The hardest thing in this world is to live in it.
That's why there's us, champions. We live as though the world were as it should be, to show it what it can be.
The Earth is definitely doomed.
It's Tuesday, so it must be time to return to the Hellmouth. We're going through the Buffyverse episode by episode and a look back at Joss Whedon's iconic show. I'm MC, and I'm here with...
This is Andie.
And this is David.
So this is a very important episode. We are talking about episode 7 of season 1, Angel. And I think this is the episode where Buffy kind of changes from being like just like a monster of the week, you know, we're going to fight evil. This is where we really kind of establish what this show is going to be going further.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about it, you know, right as I was finishing watching, and this and the X-Files, I will credit for being like game changers in television and serialized drama. Because you had a little bit, but I don't remember really being cognizant of other shows that had this sort of long game arc things until, again, X-Files and then Buffy just a few years later. And this episode is the game changer of the game changer.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, like what episodes we've had before. Basically, the closest we've had to an episode as part of the myth arc of this season is Never Kill a Boy on the First Date, and that's only because we have the Little Anointed One plot that goes on in it.
Right.
But even that is like a subplot to the whole Buffy's trying to date and have a normal life. And if you take that Anointed One part out, then it's just like a normal episode. But this one, Angel changes everything. I mean, this episode, you absolutely have to watch this. Well, I mean, it's actually really funny because the twist of Angel being a vampire, everybody knows it now. So almost you don't have to watch it, but it is such a... It changes everything. I mean, it establishes things for Angel, it establishes things for Angel and Buffy, it establishes things for Angel and Darla, it furthers the master plot.
It also establishes rules within the universe about how the demons and the souls and the, all that really gets... I mean, you've had a little bit of that, Giles being exposition guy, digging into it a little bit more each episode, but this one you get a lot of information about how this world's going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one where, I mean, we've gotten sort of generic how the monsters work before this, but this is the first time, this is where basically Buffy the Vampire Slayer puts its foot down and says, this is how we're doing it. They're essentially starting to really build the show's vampire and demon mythos. And of course the concept that you can have a vampire who isn't evil, which Giles at first doesn't believe at all, and then we get the reasoning, and it's like, oh, maybe you can. But
at this point, just this one.
Yeah.
Well, yes, no, that'll expand later, but
it will expand a lot. I did a lot of research into Angel as a character. Angel is the first vampire that we know is reinsouled, but actually there's not just going to be Spike later on, but in the comics, Drusilla gets reinsouled. Darla, you can almost say, is reinsouled to a certain extent. We see Sam Lawson in Why We Fight, so he's really kind of... He really changes things in terms of, how vampires are portrayed.
Which is interesting. Yeah. I was thinking about it a lot during this episode. And in Buffy, 90% of the vamps are just evil and stupid and they're minions. Like, it's very rare you actually get... I don't know quite how to put this. Right, because most of them are just... they're vampires. They're there. You dust them. You move on. There's a whole bunch of them. But the soul thing, it comes up a lot, but it comes up a little inconsistently.
Yeah.
On how a soul works, how that, affects your memory, your personality, which I'm sure we'll get into much, much later as we're recording later on, but
once we get into season 4 of Angel, we're going to be like, what the hell is going on here? Why is the soul working so differently?
Right. And also when we get to Angel, and even somewhat in Buffy, we'll eventually get to the concept, which is actually not in existence here yet. This is Angel is an extremely special case, but we will later learn that demons are not inherently evil.
No, they're really not.
At the end of season 2, we'll meet Whistler. And by the time you get to Angel, you've got entire races of demons that are not inherently evil.
Yeah. And then we got like Clem on Buffy.
Right.
I mean, Buffy does tend to stay away from the demons as good. We get a couple examples of them. The vengeance demons are not, they're evilish, evil adjacent, but we do.
And even Clem has a thing for eating kittens.
Well, yeah.
So,
but he's Clem, right? Yeah.
No, I know. It's hard to take Clem seriously as a threat.
No, he's great.
Yeah, but they do tend to stay away from the whole gray area that does come up on Angel.
I was going to say it's a lot less nuanced. I was going to agree. It's a lot less nuanced on Buffy. And there are a few good demons and there's a few good-ish vampires. But that stuff really is going to come into play in Angel, the series. And I think that all starts here in Angel, the episode.
Definitely. Because, I mean, like, Xander's got the line, about, birds... Is it...
Birds gotta swim, fish gotta fly.
Exactly.
Which I take issue with, because when did Xander have the time or the inclination to see the musical Showboat?
Yeah.
Which is what that quote is from.
I think that's a sufficiently widely used phrase at this point.
Okay, but I was like, okay, I guess
one.
apparently Xander, because we've talked about this before, how Joss didn't know if he wanted to make Willow gay or Xander gay, and I'm not saying all stereotypes are real, but I don't know. Knowing songs from Showboat sort of pings my gaydar.
So I can't believe I forgot to do this, but this episode was directed by Scott Brazil, and it was written by David Greenwalt, which is a name that is going to come up a lot throughout both Buffy and Angel, especially when it comes to the character of Angel. David Greenwalt is basically Angel, the series' real daddy. I mean, everybody always talks about Joss shows, but David Greenwalt was the one who was really behind that. And this episode originally aired on April 14th, 1997. So, sorry, I have to get out the... And I think... Is David Greenwalt the first writer that we've had come back now?
I think so. Yeah, even Joss. Even Joss hasn't written...
He did the pilot, yeah, and that's it, yeah.
I mean, if you count the pilot as 2 episodes, then yes. But
I'm trying to remember now which episode David Greenwalt had previously... Oh, he did Teacher's Pet.
Yes.
Right, where I got, like, super outraged at him and, like, quoted his entire back catalog of, like, terrible teen sex comedies.
Which is really amazing, because Teacher's Pet is the worst episode of this season. And Angel is one of the best. Like, I don't know if I would say it is the absolute best, because Prophecy Girl is amazing.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
But Angel, I would probably say, number 2 on the list.
It's certainly up there, and of course it has the importance thing going for it.
Exactly, yeah.
So, and well, it's interesting, sort of, like, I guess maybe this almost mirrors the improvements David Boreanaz has made from the beginning to now.
Yeah.
Like David Greenwalt did Teacher's Pet, but really upped his game here. And Angel's early appearances, David Boreanaz is like, oh God, please, no, take acting lessons. I mean that in the best way, because he does have potential, obviously, and he does get better.
Oh, he gets
and he's much better
so
here.
much better, yeah.
but I think he and David Greenwald both sort of were on a learning curve.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people upped their game in this one. Like, I mean, Sarah was already great, but Sarah is fantastic in this. I think Julie Benz did a much better job on this one than she did in the pilot. I mean, granted, she had a lot more to work with in this, but I mean, I'm a huge fan of Darla, so...
Yeah, and I don't think I remember her I initially going through. I was like, okay, that's interesting. She's another vampire. They obviously had a thing, you know, but then I didn't really think about her again for a long time.
Well, I mean, it doesn't really become an issue again until we get to Shanshu in LA. We do see her in flashback in, I think, Becoming Part 1, but that's it.
Yes. Yeah, we eventually see flashbacks, but this is the last time we see Darla in the present for years.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, we will see Darla on Buffy again, but only within a crossover episode that's really Angel-centric.
Well, except for Becoming.
And, well, yeah, and in Becoming, I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, who is that woman that's turning Angel? Like, I went, wait, is that... It took me a while to sort of, like, figure out that was Darla.
Oh, I totally remembered, and I remember for that one really flipping out. I was like, oh my god, Darla's back!
I think it was because she was obviously dressed so differently.
Yeah.
That I was like, wait, who? Oh, no, that's the lady with the skirt and the John Woo guns that we saw all the way back in season 1.
Yes. And also, I mean, at that point, as much as, you know, she's better here than she was in her first appearance, she's really still more of a plot device than a real character at this point. So, whereas in Becoming, she becomes an actual character.
Yeah. Well, I actually don't think that we will reach Darla's full potential until we get to season 2 of Angel.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. But, you know, looking back on it, watching it again for the 45,000th time, I kind of got a little into Darla. Knowing what's going to come later, knowing that dynamic. She just, I mean, she's evil, but she really just wants her dude back.
Yeah, she cares about Angel a lot.
She does. She wants her playmate back. And it really sets up for the future what kind of dynamic that they have. You know, she's like, oh, you're hurting me. Do it some more, or I like it.
I like it.
I like it.
That's good too.
I was like, well, that tells you a lot. Just in that one little moment, what they are to each other.
Yeah, well, we will find out later. I mean, Angel is the most important person in Darla's life. I mean, on Buffy, when we see her, she's the Master's minion. And then we find out on Angel that Darla left the Master to be with Angel. And she left the Master for hundreds of years. Well, maybe like 100 years.
Right. Yeah. It actually, this, as you know, my philosophy degree started cropping up at me watching this, because the conversations between Darla and Angel are actually really interesting from a philosophical point of view, because you look at, you see just the very different perspectives of vampires versus souled creatures in general, and it's they don't really give you anything to indicate that Darla's perspective is actually wrong, given that she's a vampire, she lives forever, and you know, it's like, well, what's the point of living forever if you don't just make the most of it? To hell with responsibility. And so it's kind of, was interesting to me anyway, watching those two dynamics, those sort of two philosophies sort of butt heads in action adventure series.
I am going to bring up a big problem with Angel and Darla's conversation, and that's Angel talks about how the last time he saw Darla, it was kimonos. Excuse me, Angel, the last time you saw Darla, it was during the Boxer Rebellion in China, where nobody's wearing fucking kimonos.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Well, that's... Yeah, I mean, the only real answer to that is, well, they hadn't written that yet.
It's continuity, but in universe, it just means that Angel is super problematic.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, Angel, yeah. Yeah, obviously they didn't know where they were going with this.
Yeah.
I think they definitely had some long game ideas, but at this point they were no idea that there was going to be
The specifics were completely.
It's what TV tropes calls arc wielding, where they had this line about, the last time it was, vague Asian, stuff. And then they'd put in this thing about how Spike killed a Slayer in the Boxer Rebellion. And then when they came to writing Fool for Love and Darla, they're like, hey, wait a second, how about we put these things together? And not realizing that it's super problematic.
It is.
Yeah. I guess in Angel's defense, you can say last time he saw Darla, he was having a rough time of it.
That is very true.
And she did have, when we get there, some real chinoiserie. I know, not the same country, but that kind of inspired drapey clothing. But
yeah, maybe Angel just doesn't know the difference.
That's the problematic part.
Well, yeah.
The guy reads a lot, though. You would think
True.
he would know. Like, he went back and is like, oh, I was at that Boxer Rebellion. Let me read a history of it and see how accurate it is.
Yeah.
I'm so broody.
Okay.
Rah, rah, rah.
I actually have to say that's one of my favorite things about Angel is that, he's like super big on reading. Angel's a nerd.
He is a nerd.
Mhm.
He's just one of those nerds who, like, don't believe is a nerd because, like, they're genetically blessed, so why would they need, you know what I mean? Not that nerds, that was a really problematic statement. I apologize. You know what I mean? Not a nerd that you would expect to be.
He's a hunky nerd.
He's a hunky nerd. He's a hunky nerd.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, certainly we will get into that more when we get onto Angel's own show, when he is allowed to show more nuance to his character other than just being, the tall, dark, handsome guy that, Buffy's in love with. Which, one of the comments that Buffy made at the beginning where she's like, what kind of relationship could we have? Honey, you're in terrible danger. See you next month. I'm like, that's the relationship they ended up with, except they added, we can't do this while in the middle of kissing each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much, it was like she was being a prophecy girl even then.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, and just since I brought it up, the Willow and Buffy conversation at the beginning.
Meh.
Oh, yeah.
Again, Willow and Buffy can only talk about boys. And, like, throughout this entire episode, Buffy and Willow have a couple of conversations, but all of the conversations are about Buffy and Angel, and Willow
or Will and Xander. Right.
Yes.
I mean, I get the episode is titled Angel, so I'm going to fully give that a little bit, but at the same time, again, and I checked, the episode does pass the Bechdel test, but only because of Joyce and Darla's conversation about wanting a snack.
Yeah.
Other than that, it kind of fails miserably.
Yeah, and the only reason I bring it up is because we are now 7 episodes into the series, and the longest conversation Buffy has had with a woman who is not her mother, that doesn't have to do with boys, is the conversation with Cordelia, when Cordelia is testing whether Buffy should be in her little group of Cordettes.
Mm.
So, I mean, granted, it is still early days, but considering how this show is touted for its feminism, it really bothers me that Willow and Buffy just keep on talking about boys.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely bothers me too, and I'm sure it didn't bother me then. Like,
oh no, it didn't bother me at all at the time.
Now, the time this show came out, I was getting a women's studies minor, actually, but we just weren't looking at things, I think, the way we really have expanded. And I was 22, right? Probably most of my conversations were about boys. So I probably was relating a lot more back then. But now 20 years on, I'm like, girls, come on. Can we talk about something else? Can we talk about your English homework? Can we talk about, I mean, I know it's still a guy technically, but can you talk about how Giles is a pain in the ass? You know what I mean? Like, or your training routine or your destiny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sort of like,
That's,
ladies.
and of course, Willow's main character trait at this point is, oh, I like Xander so much.
Well, her character trait is, oh, I like Xander so much, and Buffy, let's talk about you and your, and Angel.
Yeah.
Like, when they're actually talking about Angel as Angelus, and then Willow suddenly pipes up with, it must have been so embarrassing when you thought he had read your diary. I'm like, Willow, kind of get the fuck with it. I mean, it was so twee that I just, like, and I mean, I don't know if I've talked about this, but when I first started watching the show, Willow was my unquestioned favorite character on the show. It did go downhill from there. I loved Willow, and then later on, and maybe that colors me going back and watching it now, or it's also just the fact that I'm 33 going back and watching this 16-year-old who really does act, they make her just so cute you can't stand it. You're gonna, sicken up a kitten with how adorable she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think because I'm paying really close attention to these episodes, because again, I've marathoned these a gazillion times, I'm really noticing these sort of patterns, and I'm like, wow, you are driving me crazy right now. Why did I love you so much? Because you are cute, like a bucket of kittens being put forward for poker. But
and also, to be fair, we are currently watching this for the purpose of analysis.
Yeah.
True.
As opposed to just watching a TV show. I mean, there is a difference to that.
No, for sure.
Later on, I know I'm going to lighten up on Willow a little bit. I will admit, I actually went ahead and I watched a couple episodes from the second season just because I really needed to watch some more Buffy. Oh, it's going to be weeks before we get to them, so it's okay. I can watch them again then. And yeah, I do like her a lot more later on when we actually start to get more more character into her. And next week is the first Willow episode.
Next week.
So
right.
We'll be talking a lot about Willow next week, obviously.
Yeah, but right now, her absolute flat character and just having her be like Buffy's super cute little cheerleader is just like, just don't say words.
And the only thing saving it is Allison Hannigan.
No, Allison Hannigan's adorable, and I mean she's a good actress.
And her line delivery is so unique and so interesting that, I know we've talked about the unaired pilot before, and I'm sure that was a very lovely human being playing that role, and I give her no shade, but she wasn't a good actress. She just wasn't what they were looking for. And I know that Joss and several producers have said that the way Allie Hannigan read it just really kind of changed and shaped that character.
Yeah.
And at this point, 7 episodes in, I don't think they quite know where they are going with Willow yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they don't know what they're doing with a lot of stuff. Like,
true.
When
I think
the three when the three are coming after Buffy and Angel, they're able to stick their hands into Buffy's house. There's not the barrier there that will come up in later seasons when vampires aren't invited in.
Yeah. And apparently you don't need much of an invitation either.
Yeah. Because
she barely, calling that an invitation for Angel to come in, that's kind of pushing it.
Yeah, well...
obviously it works, but...
That does come up later on. In Room with a View on Angel, Cordelia doesn't even have a place, and she's like, you're totally invited over once I find a place. And it works.
It does.
Right.
Yeah, I love these shows, Buffy and Angel, so much, but they did not keep a very good, consistent show Bible.
Yeah.
Of the rules. And that's okay. I'm fine with that. Also sunlight, right? Like, when does it hurt you through a window? When does it not hurt you through a window?
Yeah, it kind of ends up being, it's indirect. So basically you have to be standing like right underneath the sun for it to...
Yeah, it has to be like direct sunlight, which I think is not actually unheard of in vampire lore.
Well,
so
not all vampire lore is sunlight actually fatal. I mean, in some of it, vampires are just stronger at night. In some of it, the sun does weaken them a little bit, but doesn't kill them. So, I mean, it can be played. Sometimes the vampires sparkle. Sorry,
and sometimes they wear sunscreen. So they don't get burned during the day. Yeah. I'm looking at you, Blade.
And actually, one thing I found out in my research was that it was actually not until this episode that I knew that Angel was going to be a vampire.
Really?
Yeah. Angel was supposed to be a mysterious stranger with ties to the supernatural that his family was killed off by vampires. And Joss didn't want to go the vampire route because he thought it was going to be cliche. But then when it actually came to doing this episode, they said, do you know what? We need to go cliche on this because this is the only way it's actually going to work. Which is the right way to go. And actually, Marty Noxon said that this episode is the one that made her realize that Buffy was not just, some crappy little failed show based off of a failed movie, that it was actually going to be something really special, which I would agree with. I mean, back when I was first watching it, I think that this was just another episode to me because I was already pot committed at this point. But going back and rewatching it now, I'm like, no, this is definitely where everything changes.
It is. And I think I've said before, I wasn't I kept liking it and I was like 50% in. Actually, it's about 75% in the pilot. And at this point, by Angel, I'm like 96.965 in. And by Prophecy Girl, I'm like 400% in and will be for the next 20 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, where are you now? Like 1,050?
Right, it's like infinity times infinity plus a whole bunch of infinity. How in I am on this, but...
Well, there are different kinds of infinity.
Okay.
Sorry. I majored in math for 6 months.
There you go. And, I have a major in theater, English, and women's studies, and I'm now a social worker. So, math, not my thing. But you can be our math expert.
Okay, yeah. But, but the thing is, you talk about Angel being a vampire being a cliche. I often say, when people talk about cliches, it's like, cliches are cliches for a reason.
Exactly, yeah.
Because they work. And sometimes, yes, you use a cliche and it's just cliche. Mm-hmm. But there are times when, no, it's the right way to go.
Well, I mean, I think there's a difference between a cliche and a trope. And I think that Angel being a vampire is actually a trope. And tropes aren't bad things. Tropes are just, they're tools for storytelling. Cliches are, there's a bit more of a stigma to it. But
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I suspect tropes can be bad if they're overused.
Yeah.
But I mean, but that's the thing. It's like both cliches and tropes have their pluses and minuses. So it's, again, like with any kind of piece of art, if you will, it's like you need to use the right elements. Mm-hmm. And if something that is the right element happens to be something that's used a lot, if it's still the right element, then that's what you use.
Yeah. And definitely Angel being a vampire, what comes from it makes it right. By making Angel a vampire, what comes later, that's what makes it really the right move. Basically, going from Angel to surprise and innocence, that's what makes it the right move to do. Because if it had just been, Angel's a vampire, and then that was it. Yeah. If it's just,
but like, they did something with it.
We can't be together, forbidden love. But they do something with it. They turn him into a bad guy. Then they make it, we can't be together. And they actually have them not be able to be together.
Yeah, I mean, and thinking back on it, I didn't feel this was super tropey back in the day. Yeah, I mean, it was the elements of the forbidden romance, and one is a being and is immortal, and there's definitely that. But this trope, this is the legacy of the modern version of this trope, and you're going to see it again and again with Twilight, The Vampire Diaries. You're going to see it with a lot of supernatural romance, and it was there before Buffy, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But it really had a huge influence, I think, on that teen supernatural, like I said, romance genre, and it was sort of the big dog of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was just looking up to see what the good guy vampires where this kind of trope came from, and the only one that I can really see in terms of television shows that came before Buffy was Forever Night, which is not a show that I'm terribly familiar with.
I watched it a smidge, but it was all right. It was okay. I did write in my notes the I have to take my shirt off because I'm wounded trope. That one never gets old. It's a classic. So I wrote about tropes as I was watching through the episode. I'm like, yep, that one never gets old. Also, we're trapped in this room, so we have to sleep in the same room, and it's super awkward trope.
The blanket scenario. Yeah, I actually made a note about how that entire scene was basically a fanfic prompt.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. They didn't sleep in the same bed, but besides that, yeah, it's very classic trope, and one that I like very much. It's one of my favorites.
And granted, like, there is a reason for it, but why did Buffy not question at all why Angel had to stay at her place throughout the entire day? Like,
well, they never really never address the question of him having to do that.
Yeah, like, I mean, he stayed there overnight.
He just does.
He stayed there overnight because they were worried about the three being out there. So he should have been able to go home the next day. We know why he didn't. Buffy didn't at the time.
Right, yeah, there was no reason for him not to just climb out the window after Buffy left and he didn't think Joyce was listening and be on his merry way.
Why the hell does Joyce still clean up Buffy's room at 16?
I don't know. Because you have to set up the diary gag.
Yeah. I know they had to do that, but I was just like, oh my god,
she doesn't
seriously?
trust Buffy to do it herself? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff she doesn't trust Buffy with.
It's because Joyce wanted to make sure Buffy wasn't having an affair with Ahmed, the charming foreign exchange student.
That's it, yes.
She's super worried about Ahmed because Joyce is problematic.
Yes. I'm still waiting for the Ahmed spin-off series.
Absolutely.
That would never happen. That would mean that we would have people of color in the Buffyverse.
For sure.
The only one that's allowed.
I know.
I'm sorry. Did that sound bitter?
No, not at all, because I'm sure that'll something we will get into. It is a pretty white bread show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Angel is a little bit better, but only by a couple %. And that couple % is Charles Gunn.
No, I'm interested. It's good that you wrote down lots of notes about tropes, because I have nitpicks all over the place. I've got so many nits to pick, but
I have a couple of nits to pick also. So I did write down a few of the picky nits.
Yeah, I don't know. They're just like I get caught up in these like things like that doesn't make sense, or like, no, that contradicts what happened before. Like, and they're just things that I don't get. Like when Darla goes to attack Joyce.
Yes.
We first see her outside the window in vamp face.
Yeah.
Why does she vamp up when she's about to devamp to knock on the door?
Because drama.
Yeah, but it just it doesn't.
No,
make
I
sense.
mean, it's really stupid.
The better to smell you with, my dear? I don't know.
I guess. And then like Buffy at some point when they're she's talking to Giles and Willow and Xander, she says, I invited him into my house after I knew what he was. And it's like, no, you didn't. Like, And why does Darla call him Angel when she dies? Wouldn't she have called him Angelus?
Probably.
Yes. Very much probably.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's the bulk of my
Well,
nits.
I think at this point they hadn't really established, like, when he stopped going by Angelus.
That's
not
true.
until later
But
on.
she does call him Angelus earlier in the
Yeah.
episode. So, yeah, I mean, and yes, yeah, I guess there's the, they didn't write that yet, but still, it's like, eh.
There's also, why did she change into the red outfit? That blue outfit was working just fine. Was red eviler?
Maybe she's a big Mary Tyler Moore fan? I don't know.
And how did Buffy know that she needed to hunt Angel at the Bronze?
Well, what happens is she's going past the Bronze and she hears like a window break or something.
Okay, I guess I've never heard the window break in all these years.
Yeah,
but
there's like a noise.
What? Because, and the reason is because we only have 3 sets at this point, so let's use the third one. But I was like, really? Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess it makes a nice set piece. Mm-hmm. My big nitpick, and it's a small nitpick, is the auto-tune on the Anointed one. They're obviously doing something digital with his voice. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Which they drop later on.
Yeah.
Later on, he just sounds normal.
In fact, I'm not absolutely sure they use it at the early part of the episode.
I think they do.
I noticed it at the end of the episode, and I went, that? I don't think they used... I could be wrong. I didn't actually go back and check. But it jumped out at me in the end of the episode, so I was thinking, maybe they didn't use it earlier.
And I don't think they use it again. I think they were trying something, and we're like, that did. And they watched it and went, that didn't work. So, but it was super annoying from the Anointed one.
Well, he is the annoying one.
He is the annoying one.
Yeah, keeping an eye on continuity, as I always do. The Master laments how, Angelus is not with him any longer and how he wants to get him back. And later on, we'll find out that's not what the Master and Angelus's relationship was.
Right, not at all.
At all. Like, the Master fucking hated Angelus.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if you want an explanation, I think this may be him looking at the history with rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
And he's just concentrating on how vicious a creature he was.
Yeah.
And it's like, he was so vicious.
Good boy.
As opposed to, I actually liked him.
Right.
Yes, he was so good at killing things.
Yeah, exactly.
I missed living above ground and killing things. And then how long has Darla been living there at the Hellmouth with him?
That's a good question.
It's a long time. I was
question.
looking through timelines of Darla's timelines, and it said something, and I can't find that link again. About Darla moves to the Hellmouth with the Master because he's been there for 100 years.
Yeah, well, I don't think they've actually said canonically when Darla moves back, but I would assume it's probably after the Boxer Rebellion, because the only reason she left was to be with Angelus. And when she tosses him out, I doubt she'd want to hang out with Spike and Joe.
No.
Yeah, but she also might not necessarily want to go back to... I mean, she might... I mean, it's definitely after that.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any... I don't know that we ever get an indication of how long after that.
Well, how long has he's been trapped in the collapsed church since when? I should know this.
Good question.
I should know this. It's well, we'll move along and I'll look that up while y'all talk.
Okay, around 1880, the Darla comes back. And in
that's when Darla comes back?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And it looks like in 1937 he ends up
trapped.
He ends up trapped, yeah.
So she's been with him since then. Like, she's been living in Sunnydale since the 1930s.
Yeah.
With the Master. I mean, she can come and go upstairs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But, I would love to know and we never will, but I'd love to know the circumstances of the actual how he got trapped, the story behind it, I want to know about more of the Master and Darla's relationship too.
Well, honestly,
I think it'd be fascinating.
In terms of the comics, which I am not a fan of the continuation comics, but I would give, my, right eye for comics on the Whirlwind's history, the history of the Order of Aurelius. Like, get into the backstory of Darla.
Yeah.
Just like a graphic novel, which is just all about Darla.
I'd be down for that. I'd be super into that.
I'm kind of surprised they haven't done it because it seems kind of obvious.
Yeah.
Or like novel, I've really, and I've mentioned this, I've really been enjoying reading these Tales of the Slayer books that were tie-ins because they're not about Buffy. Not that I don't love Buffy. But they're not. They're they're each novellas. Each one has 4 to 6 little novellas in them with all these different Slayers. And I know it's not canonical, but it doesn't really matter because it never shows up in the comics. It's just these really cool stories by some pretty cool writers. And I'm finding it really, really fascinating to think about how this has gone down for other Slayers and how different our Buffy is.
Yeah. Are they still doing Buffy the Vampire Slayer novels?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, these Tales of the Slayer books are from the run of the show.
Yeah, I thought so. I guess the only Buffy that they have now is the comic books, which
or fan fiction.
Well, yes.
I'll read all those novelizations all day long.
One of the things about this episode is that not only is this really the start of Buffy and Angel's relationship, but this is it's not the start of Angel and Darla's relationship, but it kind of is. I mean, this is actually a huge deal in the relationship of Angel and Darla that will go on through season 3 of Angel, so over several years. And so this is actually getting to see Angel rather than Angelus and Darla interact with each other in a modern setting. And I ship them so fucking hard. So
Darla and Angel?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's not
I can
surprising
see it.
considering who my favorite character is.
That is not surprising to me that you ship them so hard.
Yeah. Just for our listeners, my favorite character is Connor Angel. So, yes, I do ship his parents.
Of course you do.
Lost all of our listeners.
Bye. It was nice meeting you.
Yeah.
That's okay. I ship Buffy with Dean from Supernatural. So there we go. There's the other half of the listeners we just had are all gone now. Bye. Nice to meet you.
I had actually come up with a Buffy Supernatural crossover, which I kind of wanted to write, which is basically the Hellmouth's Hunter. And it's all about there being a hunter living in Sunnydale whose job is specifically to get rid of all of the bodies and all of the, demon corpses. And so it's basically just this hunter who's acting as cleanup crew for Buffy.
I like it. That's
Buffy never knows.
That'd be a great story. I'd really enjoy that, actually. Yeah, so, we all connect with what we connect with. And I remember really connecting with this whole Buffy Angel thing back in the day. A lot of times, and I'm heavily into fandom, I'm not going to be ashamed of loving reading fic, but a lot of times, if someone presents something in front of me, I'm probably going to buy into it, unless it's just the worst. That's kind of how I am with TV and movies a lot of times. I'm like, okay, you want us to buy into Buffy and Angel's relationship? Cool, full steam ahead. That.
Well, that's the thing. That's what they're what they're putting out there. And so unless your suspension of disbelief is violated, you'll probably go along with that.
Well, when I was first watching the show, I hated Buffy and Angel. I could not stand them. And I couldn't stand Angel as a character until we got to Innocence and we actually got to see Angelus. But going back and rewatching it now and knowing that there is an end in sight, I am able to actually appreciate the moments of them being together. Because if Buffy and Angel do not have a tragic ending, then this type of thing would be like super tedious.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting because as I was sort of looking around and researching and stuff for this episode, I got lost in a hole of, who liked what and who liked what relationship and who didn't. And David Boreanaz and Sarah Michelle Gellar love Buffy and Angel together. They think that should have been everything and Endgame, and they still tweet at each other. She's like, immortality looks great on you. Happy birthday to my angel. And he says that she and Emily Deschanel were like his two favorite co-stars of all time. And so they were heavily invested in this. And I think that actually is really interesting with what plays out between all of it. So they were, and that's maybe why the relationship works in these first couple seasons, is because those two were really, really invested.
In terms of like Sarah, who she shipped, I actually read that at the time of this episode, she really thought that Joss was going to go with Buffy and Xander getting together. She was absolutely positive that it was going to end up being Buffy and Xander. And later on in season 7, actually, she did pitch the idea of Buffy and Xander hooking up, but they didn't. They wanted to continue doing the Buffy and Spike thing. So,
yeah, I have in my notes, "Shut up, Xander." So I'm
now we are
after watching this
episode. Okay, I need to bring this up. Doing my research for this episode, I found some cut dialogue, and this is from Xander. Love sucks. Ever since I was in grammar school, it's the same old dance. You dig someone, they dig someone else. And then that someone else digs someone else. Then Willow says, that's the dance. And Xander says, I'm right for her. I'm the guy. I know it. She's so stupid. She's not stupid, but it's too much. We're such good buds, but I'm this close to her, and she doesn't have a clue how I feel. And she wouldn't care if she did. It's killing me.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Shut up, Xander.
Yeah. I am so glad they cut this out, because Xander has just encapsulated what the friend zone is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
absolutely.
That's just
this is like the friend zone distilled.
Should we just retitle the podcast "Shut Up, Xander"?
I think you said that last week.
Last week was the pack, so it was, for the love of God, Xander Lavelle Harris. Why? But no, this is just like, Xander, just don't talk.
Never, ever, ever talk again.
Talk.
Which, yeah, I love him so much.
And as usual, as soon as I say that, I feel bad, because I do like Xander, but he's just like, oh, for God's sake, stop it.
Yeah, and there was a moment at the beginning of the episode where Buffy and Willow were blah, 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 blah boys, where Xander's on the dance floor just being freaking adorable.
He
right?
Really
He's doing
is.
that. And you know what? I find guys and gals, but guys stereotypically, that don't care what they look like when they dance, to be incredibly charming, right? It's showing something about them. And then he goes and starts,
slut-shaming Cordelia.
Slut-shaming Cordelia, and, saying, oh, guys would do anything to impress a girl. I'm like, really? You mean yourself, Xander? Project much? And really going after Buffy to like, oh, no, just kill him. It'll be cool. I know you'll be sad, but it'll be cool. Just kill the guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No,
I am trying to figure out when I am going to start liking Xander. Because, well, I know when I first watched the show, I liked Xander.
Me too.
And I'm like...
Well, he has a lot of the good lines.
Yeah.
So that's why, if your brain's not on, you like Xander, because he's the funny one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And again... We've said it before, and I'm sure we'll say it a million more times. Nikki Brandon is charming.
Yeah.
He's charming. And again, the reason we like Willow at this point is Allie Hannigan is adorable.
Yeah.
And Nikki Brandon is charming. And they're doing more than the writing is giving them to imbue some really good character in these, folks that they're playing.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what I credit with me liking these characters so much in 1997.
And I mean, that also might contribute to the fact of why I liked Xander and Willow when I first started watching the show, but I didn't like Angel. David Boreanaz was not a good actor up until, well, in his first couple of episodes, so he really did not grab me. Meanwhile, they did grab me, but now that I'm watching it back with an analytical eye, I'm like, you guys are really not awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I have in my notes that during the Buffy Willow talk, it's like we've seen a little jealousy from Xander. We've seen a teeny tiny bit of pining from Buffy, but even in that conversation, she's really just lamenting the general lack of boys in her life.
Yeah.
Not as specifically. And she even complains that Angel wouldn't be a great relationship because of the cryptic thing and the, honey, you're in trouble. See you a month later. And then all of a sudden, by the middle of this episode, you're like, yep, those are the two doomed lovers. I'm in. I'm 100% in on this. And I think it is. It's a shift in the acting. It's some really great chemistry between the actors, for sure. I don't know.
And I think part of it's also the writing, because I think they know what they want to do with this now.
Yeah.
I think up till now it's been sort of like, we'll play with this. And now they've, made a decision.
Yeah, really thinking about it, considering how back in the day I really complained about Buffy and Angel, pining after each other. By this point, actually, Willow has spent much more time pining after Xander than Buffy has pined after Angel.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it is David Greenwalt, and he's going to be a huge part of the Jossverse.
Yeah.
And, will write some of the better episodes of Angel, except for The Witch. Well, no, he directed The Wish. He didn't write it. But he writes some pretty decent Buffy ones. But he also wrote some not so great ones. But then he gets over to Angel, which was really his baby.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just lost my train of thought.
You're just never going to you're never going to forgive him for Teacher's Pet.
No, ever, ever.
I just pulled up a list of the episodes that he did.
That's what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to do a super important episode coming up in season 2. He does the first episode with Spike and Drew. He does School Hard, and then he'll do the first episode that introduces Faith. And he does the pilot of Angel and some of the really major episodes of
and
Angel.
he writes I Will Remember You, which is the most soul-crushing Buffy and Angel episode ever.
I rewatched that episode, and I'm going to have a lot to say when we finally get to that about a year from now.
Okay. I will look forward to that.
I'm going to have a lot of things to say.
So he's definitely he knows what he's doing. Teacher's Pet I will always hate, and his resume prior to that I will not be crazy about, but he's very influential in our little universe here, so I will give him props for that. And
I suspect he just had to find his niche.
Honestly, he did write 2 of the worst episodes of both the shows, because he also wrote She, which is one of the worst
it's terrible.
That was ever made.
It's pretty bad.
Oh God, I'd forgotten.
That's a great one to watch with the sound off and just stare at Biling. I'm pretty. But other than that, that's a terrible episode. We'll get there.
We'll get to that.
Ladies and gentlemen,
we'll get there in 3 years, 4 years.
No, actually, I worked it out. We'll be able to get through the first 3 seasons of Buffy in about a year and a month.
Yeah, so back to the episode Angel.
Yeah.
This episode.
This episode, not the television show episode.
Season 1 of Buffy. Rather than...
Okay, here's something I wanted to talk about.
Yes.
Angel has always been super suicidal, yeah?
Yes.
I mean, in this episode really is that very first hint of how absolutely his death wish. You know, he's trying to goad Buffy into killing him.
Yeah. Well, I have some thoughts about that
Yeah.
too, but go on.
Yeah, and then, share your thoughts on that.
The thing that sort of jumped out at me is, like, the point where she's got the crossbow aimed at him, and he's, like, looking at her, he's like, go ahead. And, and then he devamps. And I'm like, that strikes me as a bad strategy if you're trying to get her to kill you.
True. I mean, he's wishy-washy in his death wish sometimes, but I think it's very much an underlying component of Angel's psychology.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of the lostness, the lack of obviously he's spent up until he's come to Sunnydale coming after Buffy because he's seen her once before. He's been in an absolute nothing life, living in alleys eating rats. Mm-hmm. He hasn't had much of a...
Well, he only did that since 1975. Yeah, when he stay away from people. But no, I would actually, I think that Angel has actually had a death wish his entire existence. If you go back and look at him when he was still Liam, he was drunken, he was getting into fights, he basically saw no value in his life. And when he becomes Angelus, he still doesn't find any value in his unlife. He, plays, sunlight games with Spike to, see who's the bigger man. And later on, when we see him, Angelus come back, it's all like, hey, let's destroy the world. It doesn't matter that, I'm a vampire, which is low on the totem pole, so that I will probably end up being destroyed. He just literally does not care. He is just entirely nihilistic. It's his existence doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, it's good writing and it's good planning to really set that up here. And that boy, he has really poor self-esteem. And I think he would really benefit from narrative therapy, which I'm more than glad to offer him at a very discounted rate.
I don't think Angel really starts to value his existence until he gets onto his own show and he discovers his own. Yeah. He is no longer the boyfriend of the chosen one. He ends up becoming a champion in his own right. While Angel on Buffy is able to hold his own in a fight, he needs to be able to eventually get out from under her shadow and fight on his own to be able to find his own self-worth and be, his own champion.
Right, and I'd also like to point out that Buffy, you can see the death wish starting there too.
Yeah.
She offers her neck.
She does.
She offers her neck, which will not be the first time the last time she's gonna offer her neck to a vampire, but she's already starting with her. I don't know this. I think this episode again is a huge game changer, and Buffy's outlook on life is changing just within that moment, and the complexity of entering in a relationship with Angel. And she's 16, so a lot of it can be chalked up to 16-year-old infatuation and thinking the world is going to end if she doesn't do a thing or kiss a boy. I don't know if before this Buffy has really had a realistic perspective on her own mortality as the Slayer. She knows it intellectually, but over the course of these 7 seasons, she's going to know it a lot more internally. And that's one of Buffy's major defining factors, and sometimes why she makes me really sad, because I'm like, no, Buffy, you're super capable and you're really bright and you don't give yourself again, I will offer you therapy at a very discounted rate since I don't have my license. But yeah, I can see that sort of parallel between Buffy and Angel at this point.
This is one of the first episodes since we had Buffy really accept her destiny. She kind of only does it in Never Kill a Boy on the First Date, which is only 2 episodes back at this point.
Right.
So, I mean, we didn't really have a chance to get into it during the pack because the pack is not about Buffy, it's about Xander. So this episode is one where we really see her acting as the vampire slayer after she's had that conversation with Giles about, I'm going to be the slayer. So I think that, ties into this whole death wish thing that you mentioned. And we're going to get it in Fool for Love, where Spike says outright that all slayers have a death wish. And Buffy has reached that point where she is officially the slayer now, and she is a slayer with a death wish. And like you said, she is 16 years old, and things with romance are life and death. And I think somewhere in the very back of Buffy's mind, there is the idea of, if a slayer's gotta die, I want to die by the man the man that I love.
Good point, Saul. Yeah.
So their death wishes are fighting against each other.
For sure. And then in the midst of all of this, Darla's like, I don't want to die. I want my boyfriend back. And I want to do some kinky things with him. Let me get rid of this girl with guns.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, is this the first time we've seen guns in the show?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And it will be the last time we see them for a very long time.
Yeah.
And is it the first slow motion shot?
No, because we got the slow motion power walk in the pack.
Right. And we had a slow motion power walk in the
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with Darla's
Lots of slow
gang
motion power walks.
Lots of slow motion power walks. It is the 90s.
Okay.
But yeah, the guns
just really liked them.
Slow motion power walks,
Yeah.
Was a thing.
I mean, I have to say, like, the slow motion shot of Angel attacking Buffy here, I actually don't think works very well.
I think filmically, a lot of the stuff when they get into the bronze doesn't work very well. It's very dark.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know I've complained that season 1 is pretty dark, but it had gotten a little better. And again, the slow-mo John Woo stuff is really... The rest of the episode is so solid, and there's some really good writing within this section, but the film, the cinematography is really... It doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, well, the bronze, I mean, I guess... I guess it's legitimate that the bronze would be dark, but yeah, it doesn't look good.
No, it's just ugly. It's just ugly. It's just an ugly looking episode in many ways.
Yeah.
Such good content, such ugly actual visual quality.
I think I need to dig out my DVD of The Killer now.
Speaking of the beauty of this episode, I would like to talk about the end of this episode, because this episode ending was so fucking beautiful. And I say that as somebody who does not ship Buffy and Angel, but the ending of them together kissing at the bronze with it's I'll Remember You by Sophie Zamani playing is so gorgeous.
It really is. It really is.
I mean, granted, the way Angel's chest gets burned would not actually happen. It's the angle is completely wrong.
I was thinking that, yeah.
But still, it's oh, my heart, just tear it out of my chest. Show it to me still beating, because it's such a beautiful scene that I actually welled up a little bit.
I always do. I think at the end of that.
Yeah, that works really well.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I speaking of that scene, I not only it's in that scene, but on the DVD, it's also the line that's used when it goes into the menu for that episode, where she says, "You're 224 years older than I am." How problematic do we think that is?
Okay, well,
yes.
Angel and Buffy are problematic, even if he's not a vampire. Angel was 26 when he was turned.
Mm.
So, even without the vampire thing, he's 10 years older than Buffy.
Mm-hmm.
Just physically. Now, vampires with humans, it's
that's problematic in the beginning.
It's a trope. It's been around forever. It will be around forever. Yeah. I don't know. Yes, it's problematic, but it's there.
Yeah, I kind of don't know how to feel about it,
Yeah.
to be honest. It's like, it reflects a potential real world concern, but in such an exaggerated way that I don't know how seriously to take that.
Yeah, like, I mean, how come Joyce is not sitting Buffy's ass down, like, immediately? And instead, like, Angel is there, and she's like, yeah, I'm gonna go up to bed, say goodnight. And it's like, no, Joyce, you sit Buffy's ass down and tell her, it's like, okay, he's obviously not tutoring you. You're obviously into him, and he's
obviously not a freshman at community college.
Yeah. Well,
yes. Well, remember, with Joyce, denial is not just a river in Egypt.
This is not just denial about the supernatural. This is just complete disinterest in Buffy's life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It's a red flag as a parent when, your kid is spending 75% of her time with a sexy librarian, who shows up at your bedside in the hospital. And she's like, oh, what a great school you go to. It's so great that we, I'm like, dude.
Yes.
Dude.
That's her reaction. Yeah,
I really like that your description of Giles is sexy librarian.
Well, I mean, it's 125% accurate.
Is there a different description of Giles?
No, I mean, that's like sexy librarian. The hottest man ever to wear tweed. I can go on and on, and I freaking will.
Alexis doesn't look bad. Not
quite. No, not as good as Tony Head. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess everybody. I mean, the kids all certainly seem to think Giles is old and gross. Really.
Joyce likes him.
Yeah.
Will.
Well, at least for a moment or two. But yeah, I mean, yeah, she's not paying any attention. She's like, well, you better leave now. It's time to stop studying. And then the hot librarian shows them. She's like, what a great school. Y'all care so much. Buffy talks about you all the time. And I'm like, and I'm in the background going, don't stand so close to me. Don't sing it home.
I am willing to excuse the Giles stuff, but the Angel stuff just really stands out to me, because it's like, oh, come on, Joyce. Like, are you really that, like, you're really gonna let this go? And then later on, she does give Buffy shit for not telling her about her relationship with Angel, and it's like, Joyce, do you have fucking eyes? Like, the first moment, it's like, of course they're like a thing together. And at one point in the second season, they're going to be making out in Buffy's window.
Mm-hmm.
And Joyce is there at the time because Buffy's grounded. So it's like, Joyce, just pay attention. Damn it.
I know, and it was just so bizarre because I end up loving Joyce so much. Everybody. And
Joyce only really starts to become tolerable in season 3.
When she finds out and she's able to accept and do all that stuff. And
yeah, she's actually kind of inconsistently portrayed in this season.
Yeah.
And not very positively portrayed, really.
I think part of the reason for that is because Joss originally did not want to have Buffy's parents in this at all. He wanted Giles to be the only adult presence. Which thankfully he goes back on in several ways. I mean, not only do we see Joyce, but then eventually we get more adults in, the form of Miss Calendar, who is coming next week, and I'm so excited about.
I know, I love Jenny.
Yes. So, and now you bring up Don't Stand So Close to Me, and I'm feeling really old, because I saw that tour.
Oh, awesome! I saw Sting in like 91. When he was on tour, but
yeah, no, I didn't see.
He did do that song.
No. Oh, okay.
No,
but I saw the Zenyatta Mondatta tour. It was Tom Robinson's Sector 27 opened. Paul Carrick played piano for the intermission, and then the Police came on. It's probably one of the best shows I've ever seen, actually.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Yeah, I saw
lucked out
him
on
in
that one.
'91 with Concrete Blonde opening, so that's how '90s that concert was.
That's pretty '90s.
Yeah, but I had another note. Oh, I have it's a nitpick. Okay, it's a big nitpick. Doesn't she throw Angel through a window?
Yep.
And Xander does not have the carpentry skills to fix that quite yet. So, Joyce, you are a very neglectful parent. I guess it happened off screen. Buffy getting in trouble for breaking a window of their house.
Joyce, you need some ADD meds. You are really not observant.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, that's the other thing. I'm like, really? The broken window in the front, that's never ever talked about again.
Yeah. My other nitpick, well, it's a structural nitpick, is they have the thing where Giles realizes that it wasn't Angel that bit Joyce when she mentions Darla.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, first of all, when she said, your friend came over.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you ever watch the Everything Wrong With videos by CinemaSins, one of the things they always go on about is the pronoun game. Yeah. And this is like a variation on the pronoun game. It's like, you could have mentioned a name. You're just, the only reason this happens is because you don't say the name.
Yeah.
But then when he says it to Giles, by the time Giles gets there, and with Willow and Xander, Buffy already knows this. Mm-hmm. So there's narratively, there is no reason for them to be there. I mean, they at some point they shout out, "Watch out, Buffy," or something, and that's their only purpose for being there.
Willow, they're like, we gotta distract her, and Willow shouts out, "Buffy, it wasn't Angel who bit your mom, it was Darla."
Right.
And I was like, one, you are not distracting Darla, you're distracting Buffy while she's being shot at, and two, it doesn't fucking matter. Why are you yelling this? Yeah. No, I mean, that was, it was not good.
I'm tempted to think that was a bit of padding.
Yeah,
maybe.
So I have a couple of facts for this episode.
Okay,
facts. Yes.
Do we deal in facts here?
We do deal in facts. This is the first episode to be named after a character. There is going to be 10 more. This is the 11th. There will be 10 more between both Buffy and Angel. The other ones are Ted, Anne, Faith, Hope, and Mr. Trick, Buffy vs. Dracula, Darla, Disharmony, Fredless, Billy, The Cautionary Tale of Numero Cinco, and Harm's Way. It took 60 to 90 minutes to apply David Boreanaz's prosthetics. I'm hoping that they ended up whittling that down later on by the time he got onto his own show.
Oh, yeah.
And his duster was by Hugo Boss and cost $1,000.
Yikes. Okay.
That's actually not that much money.
I think Spikes cost more.
Oh, I'm sure.
Was it not that much money in 1997?
No, it was still much money in 1997, but for a piece of costuming for a show, that's not all that. I guess on the budget they have in season 1, yes, but
Spike's cost $2,000, and they also had to distress it. So, and I'm pretty sure Cordelia's dress was an actual Todd Oldham.
Oh, I'm sure it was,
because I'm pretty sure when it comes to that kind of stuff, if you say a piece of clothing is a piece of clothing, it actually has to be from that designer.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. I'm sure it was a Todd Oldham. The other things I looked up or looked at was, we never find out the deal behind Angel's tattoo.
That is true. Yeah, we never, other than the fact that, I don't know, Angel
he has one.
Thought it was cool, and it's a griffin from the Book of Kells.
Yes. Now that was an Angelus tattoo, not an Angel tattoo.
I would assume so.
I don't think we ever know.
True.
I went deep cut into the internet, so much that I got lost in a hole of other people's Buffy fan tattoos, some of which were really freaking cool.
Yeah. I have the Angel Investigations logo.
Oh, you do, don't you?
I do.
That's awesome.
Well, I wanted to get a Buffy tattoo, but I didn't want to get the mark of Igon because I'm sorry, that has bad connotations to it.
Yeah, no, that's not a good idea. Don't do that. Yeah. Anyone who's still listening after all the shipping conversations that drove you away, don't get that tattoo.
Yeah, I thought about Angel's tattoo at one point because it's holding a big A, and my name is Andie. So at least it wouldn't be like, why is there an A? Oh, it's your name.
Oh, wait. He must have gotten the tattoo when he was Angelus, because when Giles is doing research, he's researching Angelus. And
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good remembering of things.
Yeah. Also, one other interesting about this episode is a big complaint with like martial arts movies and whatever is like, why does everyone attack the hero one at a time? Mm-hmm. And so I think this may be the first time we actually see like 3 people gang up on Buffy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, is that allowed?
And they do it
can
quite
they do that?
often on this show. She does fight more than one vampire at a time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they never actually like work in concert like the 3 do here, where like 2 of them just go, okay, we're gonna pin her, you kill her. It's like they're all just like, she fights multiple vampires, but they're all acting
independently.
On their own, usually.
You know, it's really amazing to me that the Master has any followers left, because I'm pretty sure the Master has killed more of his followers than Buffy has.
You know, you may have something there.
Well, I mean, he killed, was it Colin in the first episode? Well, you know, you've got something in your eye.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know that he kills him that way? Does he die?
I kind of assume so.
Or does he just lose his eye?
I mean, he probably doesn't die that way, but I'm thinking that, you know, he eventually dies. There's some torture involved. Then he kills some vampires in Never Kill a Boy on the First Date, if I recall correctly. And then he has Darla kill the 3. And killing off the 3, I mean, the 3 are like his, you know, like major, like, big guns. And it's like, oh, you guys fucked up once. Well, you better die now.
Right, and I even had the line written down that he says, because it's really great. It's really, it's like, oh, it brings me so little joy to, but I'm paraphrasing, but a little sometimes is enough. It's just, I love the Sass Master. Sass Master really is such, I just think he's great. I don't know. Why is anybody following him? Because, he just kind of likes to kill his own minions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have any final thoughts on the episode of Angel?
No, again, there's some great one-liners in this show that, you know... Mm-hmm. Oh, and some really great sort of things that are going to come up later and are going to create good continuity. Like Darla saying that her family goes back to the War of Independence.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and that was really great. And, just go back and, listeners, go back and look up quotes for this or enjoy them because they're really, really good stuff.
There is one really nice bit of direction in this episode. When they talk about the 3, and they immediately cut to that close-up of the guy lighting the cigarette, which makes you go, okay, something's about to happen. And then they cut to the wider shot of, like, the 3 big guys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, like, it kind of, like, subconsciously at least makes you think, oh, that's the 3. But then the actual 3 come by. So it's this nice little fake-out, a little bit of misdirection.
Yeah, there's
it's not a big thing, but it's a nice little touch.
I was actually really hoping the 3 would punch the neo-Nazis. That's the fake out for the 3. I'm like, punch them. Punching Nazis is the way to be right now.
Always be punching Nazis.
Always be punching Nazis.
We're not going to be getting into that until season 5 of Angel.
Well,
there's some punching Nazis in season 1 of Angel, too. I mean, they're demon Nazis, but...
That's true, but, you know, it's relevant and topical for the world we live in right now. Listeners?
But are they...
Listeners?
But are they Illinois demon
Always
Nazis?
punch Nazis.
And, speaking of relevant to today's events, Do you notice Cordy is not in favor of free trade agreements?
No, I know. I noticed that. That was great. This is what happens when you get free trade agreements.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
That's interesting.
Okay.
Of course she wouldn't be into free trade agreements.
True.
Because she wears $200 shoes.
Yeah.
And my note says, Cordy never change, which you do somewhat, and I kind of miss it sometimes.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Well, yeah, that's all I had.
Yeah, I think I'm done.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think basically we could all agree that just this was an awesome episode that really kind of sets things up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's nice that we're finally getting to episodes that are really setting things in place.
Yeah.
And showing where we're going to go from here. Because a number of the episodes, especially like the last few, have been very much one-offs.
And we're going to get some more of that before we get to the really, really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we are going to get some of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, next week is pretty much a one-off.
Yeah,
Oh,
next week. So we're going to be diving deep into the late 90s. You are going to be smashed in the face with the 90s with iRobot Eugene. And we will get to see all of the 90s computer stuff. So until then, grr, arg.
Grr, arg.
Grr, arg.
We'd like to thank everyone who downloaded the podcast, and an extra special thanks to everyone who shared, liked, and subscribed on social media. If you'd like your questions or comments read on the show, you can contact us on our website, returntothehellmouth.com, on YouTube at Return to the Hellmouth, on Tumblr and Facebook at Return to the Hellmouth, or on Twitter at Hellmouth Returns. Or you could email us at returntothehellmouth@gmail.com. We'll be sure to read your comments on the show. Also be sure to rate our show at iTunes and Stitcher. Check out our sister podcast, The Trash Compactor, Star Wars from the Female Perspective, and Emcee's YouTube channel featuring Fandom Equals Square MC and MCCs. See you on Tuesday for iRobot Eugene.
Grr, arg.